amount of online content for families and schools to engage with. And it's really incredible how authors, illustrators, artists and different practitioners adapted to create fantastic resources for children and young people online. And with this, we've been working behind the scenes to curate these digital resources and existing ones into an easy to access weekly newsletter where we share a list of top picks each week for under fives right through to teens, often with a literary or study angle. So we've also collated a resource page, which is the first thing that I'm going to show you. And I'll pop a link to this into the comments as well. So just bear with me while I share my screen. Great. Is that okay, Claire? Can I get a thumbs up as it comes through? Yeah. So this is a collaboration of our two services, which is Leeds Libraries and a schools library service. So I saw that Kirsty's checked into this lunchtime talk. So hi, Kirsty. Kirsty's a librarian at the schools library service, and we've been very much working on all of this together. So I'll just scroll through the page just to give you a little bit of a flavour about this resource page and some of the links that we've got on here. So first of all, we've got our books and readings, is where you can come and just a simple link to get through to our catalogue for our ebooks and also comic books and graphic novels for children. And you can also join the library here if you're not already a member. We share our online library events in this section. So we've just launched really recently our Lego Club at Leeds Libraries, which we have a Friday challenge that goes out weekly, and every month, we have our club that is like a live Facebook discussion where people can post pictures of what they're building as well. And this links very much into a book each month. We also have our co-club, which is every 2 weeks. And this is taking our existing co-clubs that were across libraries online into one place. So it's been really exciting to be able to bring some of our regular family activities back really during lockdown. And we always pop the PDFs in this section here of the challenges each month as well, so you can come in and check out what we're doing there. There's lots of different resources and links to various partners that we are sharing their content with as well, and looking in at some of the study material that we have that's appropriate for children and young people. So there's a really big section from our local and family history department. So loads of really great stuff there that you can explore whilst learning at home. Some more links here, but this section these are our newsletters that I mentioned just briefly at the beginning. So every week, once this is published, they automatically pop up into this space, and you can click through there to have a look back at all the top picks that we've selected each week in that section. And then down here, we've got some more home learning support. Some of these are links that we're subscribed to, but we've also we've got the Discovering Children's book link, which in a few minutes, you're gonna be able to learn a lot more about that one, which is a really fantastic resource. So the next little bit that I want to just move on to is our ebooks and e-audio books. So here we've got, I'll just scroll up so you can see the page. So this is our Borrow box, which is our online library. I'll just come down just to the children's bit, because that's where we're focusing our attention today. So we have 900 children's and young people's ebooks and e-audio books on Borrow box, and these are titles that are often it's one title with one loan, and that's due to licensing and how we buy these books, which is often, if there's a really popular title, you end up going on a reserved waiting list for it. And last month we had over 1,600 loans of our children and young people's titles, which is fantastic that families are able to access quality reading material for free, and it's something that we're really proud of, and something that we're really pleased that we've been able to do this during lockdown. And it's a resource that we've had for a long time, but something that we've really been able to focus on and highlight, which has been great. We have currently 25 titles which have multiple downloads, and these range from 50 loans per title up to 1,000 loans per title. And these are books that we're really focusing on to promote and base our children's online activities around, just really because they're very accessible. You're not going to have to wait for them. You can just go straight in and you're pretty much guaranteed to be able to download that book there and then. So for example, last month's Lego Club theme was based around this Dick King-Smith novel, The Sheep Pig, which is very well known. And to give you a little bit of an exclusive on next month's club, so our Lego Club and our Co-Club next month, we're going to be basing these around the 13-Story Tree House, which is this book here. And we've got that one in ebook and e-audio book, so hopefully that will expand the range of age groups that will be able to access that and listen to it or read it themselves. So if you've got any children at home, that would be a really good one to add to their reading list for the next week or so. And just to sort of finish off with, on Saturday it's Elmer Day, and we've got this lovely Elmer Treasury here, which is an ebook. So that'd be a really nice one as a family if you've got young children, that you can just borrow that one and be something that would be just really lovely to be able to sit and listen to. And there's a lot of activities for Elmer Day on Saturday as well. And if you check back onto that resource page, you'll see the May half-term newsletter, and there's a whole chunk in there around some Elmer activities and a link to the website from that. So I'll pop that link into the comments as soon as I've finished. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here, so make sure it comes back. Am I good? Is it back?
Yes.
Great. Fantastic. So yeah, so I'm just going to pass back over to Claire, who I'd just like to say has done a fantastic job of these lunchtime talks, and it's definitely been a weekly highlight of mine. And I'm really excited to listen to the next speakers and hear more about the British Library, because I know how fantastic this website is. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. That was wonderful. Nice little exclusive there with our next Code Club and Lego challenges. I do have a little question in the comments. Are you okay to answer that? It's about, do we have any dual language ebooks for children?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment on the website, but I'll find out, because potentially it might be that they are in a different location and not on our borrow box. So we can definitely find that out, and when you email out the link to this talk, we could maybe include it in that once we get the answer.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Rachel. Lovely, good point there, because we do want to be as accessible as possible to everyone. Wonderful, thank you. I hope everyone's enjoyed that, and there's some good little tips there for everyone to share. So we are going to move on to our British Library guests today, which is Elvie and Andrea. So Elvie Thompson is the lead learning producer for the North, and Andrea Varney is Goldsmith's National Outreach Manager for Digital Learning at the British Library. I had to look at that because it's quite a mouthful, all of that. And they are going to discuss how the British Library developed the Discovering Children's website that Rachel's just introduced you to. And I'm just going to hand over to Elvie now, if you're ready, Elvie.
Yeah, thank you very much, Claire. Hello, everyone. It's really lovely to have the chance to talk to you all today. Can you just let me know if you can hear me all right? I've been having some microphone issues lately. Is that good? Fab, thank you. So yeah, as Claire just said, I've quite recently started working for the British Library, and my job is to set up new learning programmes in and around Leeds. So we're particularly pleased, of course, to be having the chance to do this with our friends at Leeds Libraries today. It's been a real privilege for me over the last few months to start learning all about the British Library and so many things that I never knew before. So for the first part of our talk today, I'm just going to share with you some of that stuff that I've been finding out, just by way of an introduction, how we work digitally and how we work out here in the material world as well. And then after about 10 minutes, I'll hand you over to Andrea, and she'll tell you a lot more about the Discovering Children's Books website that she brilliantly has been involved in putting together. So let me see if I can share my screen. There we go. Can you see that okay? Great, fab. So I found this fantastic photograph the other day, the one on the left-hand side, which is of some of the women who worked at the Royal Ordnance Factory Thorpe Arch at Boston Spa during the Second World War, which you might know later on became a home to the National Lending Library for Science and Technology, and then later on after that became part of the British Library. So what is the British Library then, really? We're the National Library of the United Kingdom and one of the largest libraries in the world. I've heard the library described as the nation's memory, which I think is a really lovely idea, because we keep a copy of everything that's published in the UK and Ireland so that people are able to find it, enjoy it and research it. I was quite surprised to learn the British Library is actually quite a young institution. It was only created in 1973, so it's coming up on its 50th birthday soon. And the idea was to create one single institution that could be the home for all of those collections, all of those books, all of that knowledge that had previously been held by lots of different organisations. So essentially just to make it easier for people to find and use it all. So one of those organisations was the National Lending Library for Science and Technology at Boston Spa. But lots of the things that I think we're most famous for, things like the Magna Carta, for example, or Leonardo da Vinci's notebook, they came from what was originally the British Museum Library. And the picture on the right-hand side of your screen there is the fabulous reading room in the British Museum. That library was already a couple of hundred years old before the British Library was founded, and had one of the world's largest collections of books and manuscripts from right across the globe and right throughout time. And at the time that those women on the left were working in the munitions factory at Boston Spa, some of those treasures from the British Museum Library were hidden away in a cave in Aberystwyth, with armed guards to protect them, just in case anything terrible happened during the Second World War. Lots of terrible things happened to the books specifically. So the building that we're probably best known for, the one on the left-hand side of your screen there, St Pancras in London, wasn't actually built until 1998. And today we have our collections stored across those two sites, so St Pancras on the left and Boston Spa on the right, which as you can see is a huge campus with lots and lots of different buildings. So the next obvious question, I guess, following on from that is, what on earth do we keep in all of those massive buildings? A lot of stuff is the answer. So we've got more than 170 million items in our collection. The list on the screen there gives you an idea of the kind of stuff that we've got, although there's a lot more beside what you can see there. And just to give you some context, that includes roughly 13.5 million books, 310,000 handwritten manuscripts, 60 million newspapers, 4 million maps, 7 million sound recordings, 8 million stamps, and lots of other stuff besides. Together, the collections occupy more than 700 kilometres of shelving. Now, I personally work in old money and I don't really understand kilometres, so that's roughly 460 miles, which is enough to get you from London to Aberdeen. And it's also growing that distance by about 5 miles every single year, because we receive a copy of every single piece of published material that comes out in the UK and Ireland every year through something called legal deposit. We've got some really incredible things in our collection, and Andrea will show you later on some of the really amazing treasures of children's books that we've got, but these are just some of the other things that we have, some of my personal favourites. So the one on the left-hand side there is Sultan Babiar's Quran. It's one of the most magnificent Qurans that we've got in our collection, and the writing that you can see there is actually written in pure gold, and it was made in Egypt about 700 years ago. The picture in the middle is one of the beautiful illuminations from the Bedford Hours, which is a 15th century prayer book. We've got any number of wonderful medieval manuscripts in our collections. And the top right hand corner is one of the remaining editions of Shakespeare's first folio, so the first time that Shakespeare's plays were printed and published together in one volume shortly after his death. And then my personal favourite, at the bottom right hand corner there, is some of Wilfred Owen's First World War poetry notes that are annotated by his friend and fellow poet Siegfried Sassoon. The smallest thing we think we've got in the collection is the examples in the picture there, but we have some tiny, tiny little books that were made by the Brontes as they were growing up together in Yorkshire. And the largest one, the one on the bottom of the screen there, is the Earth Platinum Atlas, which is more than 6 feet tall. And obviously, as you'd expect, is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. The oldest thing that we have, the picture on the left-hand side, some 3,000-year-old Chinese oracle bones. Never expect to find things made out of bone in a library, but we have some. And the newest thing that we've got is today's newspaper, hot off the press, that come in to our site at Boston Spa every single day. And then, given this is a tech talk, you obviously know that there's loads of stuff published digitally now too, as well as in print, as Rachel was talking about earlier. And that comes within our remit to collect too. So it's everything that's published in the UK and Ireland. So we've got ebooks to go with our printed books. And we also collect every website that's got a .uk suffix. So our digital collections apparently amount to over 1 petabyte. Now, I had no idea what a petabyte was. I've never heard that word before. But it's equivalent to almost 3.5 years worth of non-stop HD quality video footage. So quite a lot. A really massive part of our job as the National Library is to look after all this stuff so we can keep it, preserved for posterity. And so that in among all those 170 million items, whatever one thing anyone is looking for, we're able to find and get to them, and that we'll be able to continue doing that, today, tomorrow, next year, 100 years into the future. Now, I'm going to try to come out of my PowerPoint and show you a video while I continue talking. Hope this works. Can you see that? Great. So this video, it doesn't have any sound on, by the way, so don't worry if you can only hear me talking, that's intentional. This is a camera riding the robots inside our national newspaper building at Boston Spa. So those robots go in and they retrieve and then replace items that are requested by members of the public. It works a bit like an Amazon warehouse, that sort of system. So all of our storage spaces have their temperature and humidity really carefully controlled to preserve the material. And some of the buildings, like this one, also have a special low oxygen atmosphere to try and protect the collection from fire as well, so a fire couldn't start in this building. And to maintain those conditions, we have to really carefully limit the number of people who can go into those spaces, keep that as low as possible, which is why these special magic, to my mind, robots are so useful. The items in the collection that are used most frequently and some of the very oldest stuff, like those manuscripts I mentioned earlier, live in London, where the majority of our current users access the collection. So whether that's going in to use the reading rooms for research or visiting our exhibitions. But 70% of our print collections are looked after at our Boston Spa site, which continues to grow as the collection continues to grow. So in recent years, we've created the very excitingly named additional storage building, brilliant. And also the National Newspaper Building, which is the one that's the video is of that you can see right now. We're actually in the early stages at the moment of creating a brand new building as well to continue to expand the collection, and that should keep us going for about another 10 years or so. So I'm going to just try to get back to my PowerPoint. What's that? Here we go. So as well as caring for all those collections, the other thing that we do is try to help people to access it for research, for inspiration and enjoyment. We are a reference library, so unlike Leeds Libraries, you can't come to the British Library and get a book to take home and read with you. You need to come in and do it in our reading rooms, and that's one of them on the top left-hand corner of your screen there. So anybody who wants to do that can apply for a reader pass and come in to use the reading rooms either at Boston Spa or at St Pancras. So each year, all the people who visit our reading rooms all together consult more than 1.5 million items in our collection. And every weekday, there's a lorry that runs up and down the A1 between Boston Spa and London, carrying something like 1,000 items every day for all those readers at either end. You can search much of our collections online. So the bottom corner of your screen there where it says Explore the British Library is our online search facility. So you can actually order a book from the comfort of your own home. There we go. And then come into one of the reading rooms a couple of days later and it'll just be there waiting for you. We support industry and government as well as individuals with research. So for example, recently we've published a collection guide for everything that we've got that's relevant to COVID-19. So people who are doing that research during the pandemic at the moment are able to find that information as easily as possible. And we do a wide range of public programmes. Obviously, a lot of them are on hold at the moment, but we hope to get back to them as soon as we possibly can. So we do things like exhibitions, learning activities and events to try and make sure that everyone can explore and enjoy our collection. We also know, of course, that it's a challenge. We're supposed to be a UK library. Actually, we've got audiences around the world, so not everyone can get into our site at London or even into the reading rooms at Boston Spa to access our collections. So we try and make as much available online as we possibly can. We've got 43 online exhibitions that you can explore via our website. The ones that you see on your screen there are some of those that have been published most recently. So the top left-hand corner one there, Coast, was actually only published last week, I think. It's brand new, and that's a sound exhibition with the sounds of the coast. So if you're missing being able to go to the seaside right now, get on there and check that out. And the rest of them cover a really wide range of themes. There's things in there like the language of birds, like children's rhymes and games, and the history of magic, which is another one of my favourites. A really good place to start, if you want to check it out, is with our British Library Treasures selection, where you can basically see the same things that you would view if you came to St Pancras and visited our Treasures gallery, so you can see all of those online. A recent favourite for me, I'm going to try again to go back to the internet, is that we digitised our collection of globes, which is a really weird thing because obviously a globe is it's round, it's a three-dimensional object, so quite hard to work out how you could see it in 2 dimensions online. But we digitised these in 3 dimensions so you can spin them, hopefully this is going to work, and see them from either side. So this is a 17th century, I think, celestial globe, so you can see the stars mapped out there in the constellations with the star signs that they're associated with. Love that one. So Andrea and I both work in the learning team. Just going back here. There we go. So our job is to try and create opportunities for people to learn with and learn about British Library collections. And we do that in lots of different ways. A lot of it happens in person, but even more, and particularly right now, of course, happens online. We've got a large number of websites that have been specifically designed to support the school curriculum. They're mostly designed for secondary school students and cover a really wide variety of subjects. So English literature, as I'm sure you'd imagine, but also history, RE and sociology. And they feature things like key authors, key texts and sources, articles that look in depth at particular themes, and that's what some of those examples on the screen are. And then videos and teaching resources too. So if you're doing any homeschooling with older children at the moment, these are really, really brilliant. But also I personally just think they're fantastic in their own right. I love looking through them because they've got such fantastic stuff on them. So the examples you can see on your screen there are from our Discovering Literature website, Discovering Sacred Texts, the Second World War, the Magna Carta, the Fight for Women's Rights, and 20th Century Music websites. And then of course we've launched our new site earlier this year, which is what you're all here to hear about, Discovering Children's Books, which I am going to hand you over to Andrea now to talk about. So I will stop sharing my screen. There we go, so that Andrea can talk to you a bit more.
Hi, it's lovely to be here in this digital place with you. I'm going to try and share my screen, which hopefully will go okay. Let's try. Can you all see that okay? So as Claire said, I've got a slightly ridiculous job title. I am the Goldsmiths National Outreach Manager for Digital Learning, which basically means my Post is funded by the wonderful Goldsmiths Company charity, and my job is to rifle through the archives at the British Library looking for things to excite and inspire young people, and then usually I travel around the country sort of working with people like you and also teachers and children to share ideas about the best ways of using our collections. At the moment, I'm basically just the queen of hypocrites. I spend the whole day connecting with children and adults online and moaning at my own teenage boys to get off their phones. That is my main occupation. So as Elvie said, I'm going to give you a glimpse of how we made our latest learning website, which is Discovering Children's Books. We were incredibly lucky to launch on the 21st of February, sort of very shortly before lockdown. So that felt, you know, very, very lucky, because it would have been very hard to get it done in the conditions we're working in now. So it's the British Library's first website aimed primarily at primary school children, but also teachers and book lovers everywhere, and explores the history and rich variety of children's books through a treasure trove of items from the British Library, but also from other amazing collections. So the thing you can see on screen now is one of Judith Carr's beautiful original illustrations for The Tiger Who Came to Tea. And Elvie showed you one of these earlier, but this is another one of the Bronte's miniature book. So this is the first known writing by Charlotte Bronte, a little book made by her sister Anne, and it's got these beautiful sort of covers made of old wallpaper, and you know, so they kind of made miniature books for their own family. So when we were creating the website, we had a number of aims in mind. We really wanted to open up the treasures in our archive to a much more diverse and most importantly, young audience. We wanted to bring together items from different collections and make very rich connections between time and places and cultures. Inspire a love of reading for pleasure and support schools in their literacy programmes. And then perhaps most importantly, we wanted to sort of demystify the process of how books are created. So like reveal the story behind the stories. And in doing that, we hoped we could encourage children to make their own work and see themselves as authors and illustrators of the future. So somehow we turned all of those rather grandiose aims into this website, and it always feels like a bit of a miracle when an actual website appears from all of those things. So this is how the screen looks when you go into bl.uk/discovering children's books, children's books. So I just want to give you a bit of a sort of glimpse of how we go about making that website. It starts with probably my favourite bit, which is talking to teachers and people about what they want and need, and then doing the research in the archive. So this is slightly surreal to sort of look at this now. It makes me feel quite sad. But these are the very chilly basements underneath the British Library in St Pancras, where we hold all of our most precious things. And so we start by sort of doing some research there. So one of the things which we sort of start by talking to curators and searching the catalogue for some of the kind of absolute highlights of our children's books collection, the quirkiest, rarest, earliest things we've got. One of the things that was highlighted really early on was this manuscript of Alice's Adventures Underground, which was made by Lewis Carroll for Alice Riddle and her siblings as a Christmas present. And this is held in the Z safe, which has become kind of in my mind like a holy shrine at the heart of the British Library. It's like this sort of repository of all the most fragile and precious things in our collection. So it holds those notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci that Elvie mentioned earlier, the Beowulf manuscripts, and also some little plasticine Winnie the Pooh figures made by E.H. Shepherd. So you book an appointment to get to go down there. The curator sort of takes you down. You go through lots of locked doors. You can only use pencils. You're admitted immediately if you take food in there, and it's freezing. So everyone's kind of there in cardigans and scarves. And so, yeah, so that was one of the real highlights, to go down and see things like this. But we also very fortunately have the opportunity to look at brand new, newly acquired archives. So this item is from the archive of Caribbean English poet James Berry. And when I looked at it, it was just a sort of pile of A4 line pieces of paper, basically in kind of cardboard wallets. It looks like my teaching notes. So a real pleasure for me in putting together this website was kind of going through those and trying to find little gems that people could enjoy and that would sort of give them inspiration. So this is a note that I found from James Berry, and he says, "A poem develops over stages. You'll need to revise it, polish it, make it better, make it into the shining spirit of your idea." And when we're putting together our websites, one of the things we're really looking for are things like this, which show, you know, the kind of messy process of how books are made. So we love mind maps and drafts and scribbled notebooks and things like this, which sort of give children a kind of notion that, you know, books don't descend ready-made from the sky. They're part of a sort of collaborative, messy process of changing your mind and making mistakes. Really inspiring for children and adults as well, and liberate them to be creative and experimental. We've got lots of printed books on the site, so yeah, we often look for the earliest and sort of groundbreaking books in particular collections. So this is the first surviving collection of nursery rhymes, Tommy Thumb's Pretty Songbook. You can see it's got some sort of enduring classics which you might know here, and then some which perhaps you might not know so well. So this is Piss a bed, barley butt, your bum is so heavy you can't get up. So we said this was child friendly. That's probably, hope no children are shocked, but it makes me think of my kids' stinking heavy nappies when they were young. This is a groundbreaking book printed in 1963, Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats, which has some of the most beautiful illustrations of African-American child who's the kind of heart of the story. So sort of very important in the history of children's books, that one. We love movable books. Sorry, that's a bit sort of, wow. And when me and my colleagues were looking at this one, this is one of my favourites, produced in 1891 by Lothar Meggendorfer. Just the sort of process of pulling these tiny tabs at the bottom after they've somehow lasted 130 years made us feel quite sick, but we were delighted to be able to digitise and show them like this. So as I said, we also work with other archives, and one of the most sort of enormous pleasures of working on this project was working with Seven Stories in Newcastle. It's the National Centre of Children's Books. It looks a bit like home base from the outside, basically. It's a really sort of strange building. You go through the kind of car park full of lorries, but inside it's an absolute treasure trove, particularly of more modern children's items. So as I said, we've got the original illustrations for the Tiger Who Came to Tea, but also some of these lovely sketches, and you can see where Judith Carr drew pictures of tigers in London Zoo, and the iconic kitchen in the book was based on her own kitchen cabinet. So just sort of giving a sense of how books come to life and how they're created. They weren't always going to be how we see them today. This is another one of my favourites, also from Seven Stories. It's David Armand's notes for his wonderful novel Skellig. So you can sort of see he considered different titles. He thought about calling it Mr. Johnson or Mr. Watson, Mr. Wilson, and this always really resonates with me. He made a note to himself, which he scribbled out. He says, "Are you going to get anything written today? Come on." And you can also see, I think here, that you can see the sort of notes he seems to be making to kind of plan out how many words he's going to get written per day. So a very sort of direct and sort of insight into how books actually get written. Finally, we try to contact living authors and illustrators to get a sort of sense of some of the items that they've got stored under their beds or in cupboards and drawers. So Axel Scheffler very kindly let us put these sketches for the Graffalo on the website, and we've also got you know, lovely illustrations for Winnie the Pooh and for other beautiful books. So you can see that Axel Scheffler was told to try and make the Gruffalo less scary, and he's kind of adapted it in line with those comments. So quite quickly, I'm conscious of time, but I want to give you a sense of how we select and interpret the materials on our website. So we sort of look at all our notes, all of our crazy snaps from on our phones, and select some highlights, and then we try and draw really rich connections between them. So this is the oldest item on the children's book website. It's a homework for a Egyptian child trying to learn Greek. So the teacher has written out the writing up here, the child's had a go, has missed out the letter C. Then, as often happens in my house, we say, have another go, that wasn't great, and then the second attempt is considerably worse, basically at the bottom there you can see. Yeah, that's the oldest item on the website. We've also got this manuscript trying to give medieval children advice about table manners, so it's got some really nice things like pick not thy nostrils, and let your master get at the cheese first. And then more modern items, so Liz Pichon's beautiful sort of sketchbook for Tom Gates, where she fills it with doodles and then sort of adds little notes from the teacher. So you can probably guess with those 3 items, we started to kind of see a developing theme around like behaving and misbehaving and learning and you know, disrupting learning maybe, and we grouped the items together like that. So the whole website started to be sort of developed thematically and topically with help from Newcastle University. So we've got a massive Animals That Talk section with Winnie the Pooh and Paddington and the Tiger Who Came to Tea and Anansi, all sorts of things in there. And then all these other themes that you can see there. Before we make the website, we have to digitize everything. So we send everything. That's my worst part, because you have to fill in a horrible spreadsheet full of metadata and off it goes. And we produce all the pictures for the website and then we interpret it. So it was my job and various other people to write the labels to sort of describe each of those things. So we're looking, like I was trying to sort of convey with this book, for sort of really rich connections with children's lives now, but also things that make the items seem kind of surprising and quirky and old and kind of odd perhaps. We also commission authors to write articles. So we've got a wonderful range of articles on the site for each topic. And often they're collaborations between children's authors and academics. So Auntie Stanton, who wrote the Mr. Gum books, worked with an academic from Newcastle to write about behaving and misbehaving. And finally, and definitely most importantly, particularly I guess now, we've got a whole bank of creative activities. So each of them are inspired by all the collection material that we've got on the website and the themes we've got on the website. We've got videos of authors and illustrators sort of talking in their studios, giving you a little glimpse of how they work and how they produce their characters. We've got a whole range of activities, from create a comic to invent a superhero, write a nonsense dictionary, and the one that's sort of really preoccupying us at the moment, make a miniature book. So usually, as I said at the beginning, it would be my job to kind of go around the country working with lots of libraries like Leeds Library and run workshops and events where people make books. But we've kind of working within the circumstances we are in, we've been able to create a virtual miniature library where children and actually lots of adults and teachers have been creating their own miniature books, sharing them with us through Twitter and social media and email, and creating this sort of amazing repository of what children are doing in their own homes and schools. So they're inspired by some of the miniature books on the site, particularly the Bronte's work. And we're also incredibly lucky to get children's illustrators and authors, including Jacqueline Wilson, Joseph Coelho, and Axel Scheffler, to make their own miniature books and video them, reading them. And this is one about a little squirrel called Flipsy struggling with homeschooling. Again, that seems fairly familiar to me, but worse words are said than acorn or walnut. And we've been really lucky that The Guardian and Time Out and Newsround have sort of picked up on the story. So it's been an incredible pleasure. And this is where I have to hand over to Elvie. I want to show you one of my favourite little videos that one of the authors, Jane Porter, made for us to go on the website. So if I stop share.
Right.
This is where I show that I am not technically able, and I rely on Elvie to...
Here we go. Show me thumbs up if you can hear and see this okay.
The Sunshine Cupboard by Jane Porter. When it rains and rains and rains, we know what to do. We get the steps and we open up the Sunshine Cupboard. And when we do, the colour slips in. Maybe you've got a sunshine cupboard too, or a box.
There you go, Andrea. I've stopped sharing.
Thank you. So I'll try it. I'll try and share again. Let me try. I'm struggling. Can you see my screen again?
Not yet. Does it say start broadcasting?
This was... No, I'm afraid I can't see it. Sorry. It maybe doesn't matter. Well, I wanted to show you the absolutely gorgeous miniature book that Elvie and various other children have made, so that we've had a properly incredible response to this campaign. Now we're in Leeds.
It's me.
We go on Twitter.
There we go. I will get to the right page for you.
Oh,
Andrea.
bless you. Thank you so much. Sorry,
No.
I have a lot to learn about.
I think it's a very difficult thing to do a talk and to do tech at the same time.
Oh, really? So those you can see on the screen are some of the beautiful miniature books that we've been sent. So everything from like a recipe for Rice Krispie cakes to guides to how to do Minecraft and Fortnite. We've had some amazing people making like marbled end papers and ex libris stickers and things. And then Elvie made this absolutely beautiful book, which is one of my favourites, called The Adventures of Chicken Layla, for her sister Layla, who had fulfilled her lifetime dream of getting chickens. So it's been an absolute joy to see all of this come together. And just on the last slide, Claire, I just wanted to tell people about how, if they would like to, they can get involved in the campaign. So I think no, that's my copyright thing. I'll put it in the chat. So you can email us your creations to learning@bl.uk, or you can follow us on Twitter @bllearning and use hashtag discovering children's books, and it would make us so happy if you and your children would contribute to this campaign. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. That was so inspiring. Thank you so much, Elvie. Thank you, Andrew. Really wonderful. And those little books, they're so gorgeous. It gives me a little bit of hope that there's like beauty still left in this world, and that we can share together and we can make our own with the links that you've said to us. I also think you're going to get a lot of requests for people to come to Boston Spa and join your reading rooms now. I have to make a confession, never been to Boston Spa, so please invite me. And I've been to St Pancras, that's wonderful. So I'm going to have a little look in the chat now and see if we've got any questions ready. Just a lot of love. So love the miniature books. Oh my goodness, my daughter just ran off to get paper and pencils to make a little book. Very inspirational. So if she's making a book, do share it on the links that Andrea told you about. So we can share them again in the emails afterwards. Do send in any questions as well if you've got any. We've got another, I don't know, 5 minutes or so left of the talk. Let's see if we've got any left. I shall give you a minute to type them in. And also, I don't know if anyone is interested in making their own websites. Obviously, you might not have access to all of those amazing resources, but I think it's a really good look at how to collate resources and showcase them in a really good manner. You can find links on Future Learned, how to develop your own website. Also, Wix and WordPress pretty much guide you through it. It's really good. So you can have a little look at that. So Kieran's asking for links to the website. Yes, Andrea has just sent the email, her email accounts, and also the link as well. And Rachel says, I only know the British Librarian in Boston Spa because I've been to a nearby soft play centre. Yeah, that sounds like my idea of hell. I have a question. So Rhiannon has a question about a borrow box. So this might be one for you, Rachel. If families are not already library members, can they sign up currently? Oh, I can answer that one. I know a little bit about the library. Yes. So if you go to leeds.gov.uk/libraries, you'll find all the information about joining up there, and you just need to fill in an online form, completely free to do, and then you'll be sent your borrow number and your PIN number, and then you can download books for free, ebooks, e-audios, e-magazines, e-newspapers. Really cool, really good service. And the e-magazines are like popular ones like Gardener's World and that kind of thing as well. So you don't have to buy them anymore. Okay. There is, yeah, and Rachel's said there is a link on the resource page as well. Any more questions from anyone?
Are you all okay?
Oh, we've got one. Here we go. This one's from Rachel. Do you find it quite easy to engage with schools? I find it quite difficult to get my son's school to sign up to these more exciting things. So that might be Elvie or Andrea.
So obviously, you know, really proper challenges now, and I think we're going to really struggle in the next couple of months to sort of engage with schools face to face, and hoping to do more online stuff. But we get lots and lots of schools coming to our schools workshops in St Pancras. We're pretty much fully booked. So I think some schools obviously are more reluctant to kind of get cover, and I know that there are enormous challenges to it, but we do get lots of schools coming. And in terms of the outreach workshops that I've been running, we've been working particularly with libraries. So libraries have been sort of recommending schools that they've got particular connections with, either that they'd love to work with or that they already work with, and that's been that looked like it was going to work really well. But yeah, I understand the challenges that schools are facing in terms of trips and cover.
And in the Leeds area, I've been working already with the school library service, among others, and Leeds Libraries to try and get this content out to as many schools in the area as we possibly can, and had more in-person stuff planned, face-to-face stuff planned, obviously before the lockdown happened. But when we get into the next academic year, we'll start working on that again.
Fabulous. School library service is an amazing resource, again headed by Kirsty, who's on this call, and they do wonderful like author visits to schools, the Leeds Book Awards as well, which has its own website, so do check that out as well. I can send out the link to that. I'm just going to check if we've got any more questions. Everyone's saying they really enjoyed the talk, thank you, and they love the miniature books, really inspiring, thank you. So I am going to introduce, I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today in this sunny weather on your lunch break. It's really amazing. And thank you to Elvie and Andrea and Rachel for talking. It was absolutely wonderful. I've learnt loads, and your PowerPoints are beautiful as well. Our next talk is with Pauline Narvis, who is digital engineering graduate from BT, and she's going to talk about blogging. So if you've ever wanted to make a blog, fantastic one for you. She's quite a techie person, so she'll probably go over how to do it and why you should do it as well. So that will be on our event page and also on our Facebook as well if you want to join up to that one. Please share that you've joined us for this talk as well on our Twitter and Facebook on @Leeds Libraries, and there might be some other things on there that you'll be really into, such as our rare book of the week that our collections manager posts. This week it was the little relating to the little small books that the British Library have done, and that was on Instagram as well.
It's gorgeous.
Yes. So thank you so much to everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Thanks so much. This is a strange bit. Should we go?
No, stay on and we can have a wee chat after everyone's gone. High five. I'll stop recording.